Subscribe now. If you're brave enough to keep watching, because once you hear what was living above my bed, you'll never sleep in silence again. I never believed old houses could breathe until mine did. When I moved into the apartment, it seemed perfect cheap rent, quiet neighbors, a faded building on the edge of town. It smelled faintly of dust and rain, like every other old place I'd lived. But the landlord's one rule was strange: never use nails in the ceiling. At first, I laughed it off. I didn't even own a hammer. But that rule started to make sense on my third night there. I woke to a noise above me, slow, deep, and rhythmic. Not footsteps, not pipes. It sounded like breathing. I turned off my fan, thinking it was just the air vent, but the sound didn't stop. A soft inhale, a pause, then a low exhale that seemed to ripple through the plaster above me. I told myself it was nothing. My imagination. Houses settle, floors creak. But then the dust started falling. Tiny particles drifted down from the ceiling, shimmering in the moonlight. I watched, frozen, as another breath pulsed through the ceiling like lungs expanding under the paint. That's when the light bulb flickered once, twice, then died. The darkness swallowed the room, and the only thing I could hear was that slow, deliberate breathing. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning I asked my downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Grant, if she ever heard strange noises. She was in her 70s, always polite, always listening more than she spoke. "You're in 2B, right?" she asked, her voice sharp. "Yes." She paused, folding her hands. "Then you shouldn't hear anyone above you. That floor's been sealed since the fire." My stomach tightened. "Fire?" "Years ago," she said quietly. "Someone died up there, a man who used to rent the attic. They never reopened it. When I asked why, she only said, 'The house doesn't like being disturbed.' The next morning, I didn't even bother getting dressed. I took my phone straight to the landlord's office. Mr. Healy was an older man with shaking hands and a smoker's cough. When I showed him the video, he didn't speak at first. He just stared at the screen, frozen, while the audio played, the slow breathing, the crack in the ceiling, the voice. When the clip ended, he simply stood and said, "You recorded this last night?" "Yes," I said. "What's up there?" "You told me that floor's sealed." He looked out the window for a long time before answering. "You need to leave that apartment." "What?" "You can't just—" He cut me off. "Whatever's up there, it's not supposed to be disturbed. That attic was never cleared after the fire. They found things inside. Patches in the ceiling, human-shaped, like someone had pressed through the plaster." I thought he was joking, until I saw his hands shaking. "You're telling me a person's been living in my ceiling?" "No," he said quietly. "Not anymore." I left his office with a knot in my stomach. All day I kept replaying the recording, zooming in, listening for something I'd missed. But the more I listened, the more I realized the breathing wasn't just from above, it was echoing through the phone speaker, like there were two tracks layered over each other, one high, one deep, like two people breathing in sync. That night I set the phone to record again. I left the flashlight on the dresser facing upward. At 2:39 a.m. the air grew cold. I felt it before I heard it pressure in the room, the kind that makes your chest tighten. Then came the first creak, then the second, then that slow rhythmic breathing again. I stared up at the ceiling, waiting for the bulge to move. But it didn't. The light flickered once, then stabilized. This time the breathing sounded closer, like it was inside the walls. I whispered, "Who are you?" The sound stopped instantly. Silence. Then, I didn't sleep that night or the next. Every creak, every sound, every breath of wind felt like something alive moving through the bones of the building. By the third day, I couldn't take it anymore. I went to find the landlord again, but his office door was locked. A sign taped to the glass said, "Closed due to health emergency." Mrs. Grant was gone too. Her door was open, her apartment empty, her furniture covered with sheets like she'd been gone for years. Only the faint smell of burnt dust lingered in the air. I was alone in the building. That night, I made a decision. I had to see what was above me. I dragged my ladder from the closet, placed it beneath the attic panel in the hallway, and climbed up. The metal hinges squealed as I pushed the hatch open. Cold, stale air poured down. I aimed my flashlight into the darkness. The attic was small wooden beams, insulation, old boxes scattered around. But directly above my room, there was something strange, a large, smooth patch in the floorboards, like someone had sealed it over with fresh plaster. And in the center of that patch was a dent, faint but deliberate, like a handprint pressed from underneath. The flashlight flickered. The air grew thicker. I could hear it again, that breathing. Not deep this time, shallow, quick, like something waiting. "Hello?" I whispered. The breathing stopped. Then a voice, low and familiar, came from beneath the boards. "You're in my bed again." The light went out completely. I scrambled back down the ladder, heart pounding, but before I could run, something above creaked. Slowly, the ceiling above the hallway began to dip, bending under weight. A long crack spread outward, dust falling like ash. Then came the voice again, closer, clearer this time, right above me. "Switch with me." I ran into my apartment and slammed the door. The walls vibrated, a rhythmic thumping from above, as if someone was crawling across the beams, dragging themselves closer to my room. The air vents rattled. The bulb above my bed buzzed and dimmed to a sickly blue. I pressed my back to the wall, whispering, "Please stop." The ceiling cracked again. A piece of plaster fell and shattered beside my feet, and in the hole above me I saw it. An eye, wide, human, bloodshot, staring straight down at me. It blinked once, then disappeared. I ran out into the street, barefoot again, shaking. The sky was gray, the sun barely breaking through the clouds. I didn't stop running until I reached the police station 3 blocks away. When I told them what happened, they sent 2 officers to check. An hour later, one of them came back. His face was pale. He said there was no attic entrance anymore, no ladder, no panel. The entire ceiling was solid as if it had never been opened. I showed them my recording, but the file was gone. My phone was blank, every video erased. The officer put a hand on my shoulder. "Maybe you just need some rest." I moved out the next morning. 3 weeks later, I got a call from an unknown number. A man's voice spoke softly, almost a whisper. "Is this Emily from 2B? "Yes." "You should come by. The new tenant in your old apartment keeps complaining." I hesitated. "About what?" He cleared his throat. "They say the ceiling above their bed keeps breathing." The line went dead. At night, sometimes, when I can't sleep, I swear I can still hear it. That faint inhale, that slow, dragging exhale. And in the quiet between them, a voice that sounds like mine. "I can't breathe when you lie there." If this story haunted you, the next one will keep you awake. Hit subscribe if you dare. End of story.